Hello YouTube, this is Bonnie, Old Soul Mermaid. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be an unboxing of a Kickstarter deck, which I backed quite some time ago. It was supposed to be ready a couple of months ago, but you know how everything is. It has been delayed, but I got it yesterday and I'm very excited to open it for you. Now this is the Uncover Your Past Lives Oracle deck by Mandy Peterson. And if you don't know who Mandy Peterson is, she does have another semi-well-known indie oracle deck. It's called Healers of the Earth Oracle, and I will link my unboxing of that deck in the description below. And actually I had two versions, the bordered and unbordered version, and I've also done a side-by-side video of those two decks. So to get into this, I did take it out of its mailing packaging, but as you can see it still has the plastic wrap, and we are going to undo the plastic wrap. But I will try to remember to edit it out because I know time is precious. All right, I'm back and I have taken the book and box out of the plastic, and we are now going to get right into it. So we will put the book aside because I know you all want to look at the cards first. And we are going to, ooh, it's got, now, to be truthful, I've totally forgot about this deck. It has been a hot minute. And so I basically have forgotten about the specs, what it's supposed to be. But so I'm happy to find that it's a magnetic closure clamshell box. And we'll just go over. So Emerald House Publishing. Interesting. I like this color scheme. This kind of reminds me of Kim Kranz's decks, you know, just her Wild Unknown, Spirit Animal deck, her Archetype deck, just the watercolor here, just reminds me of that. All right, this is a really strong magnet. So it's a nice purple or pink or fuchsia, whatever you want to call it here. And this is a circle deck. Has a nice ribbon. There's a little bit of space in here, so it isn't a tight fit, but it's just right. So you get a nice ribbon in here. Nice tight closure. And this deck is edged, and I hope you can see. We're going to get in a little bit closer here now that we've got the cards out. Let's get in nice and close so you can see them. So they are edged in this purple. And it's a matte. It's not a metallic. It might have a little bit of, no. I would say it's largely matte. And it is a circle deck. And let's look at the backs. Okay, so this is a title card here. How to use the card fronts and backs. Now, her other deck also utilized, her Oracle deck also utilized the front and the back for divination purposes, and this deck does as well. While the subcategories on the card fronts are related to the theme on that card front, it is not the same for the card backs. The categories on the card backs aren't associated with one another, nor are they related to the subject on the card front. See the manual for more information. Okay, so it's a divination system using the front and the back of the cards. It over. And this seems really interesting, you guys, and I think that's why I backed it, because I don't have anything like this in my collection. So the title on here is Abusive Relationship. So in that category, either you were abused, You're the rescuer, the enabler, or the abuser. Ooh. And then we have on the back, pre-Earth time frame. Okay, so in those categories that we saw, for this card, the time frame is pre-Earth. The lesson is self-love. Death is old age. Location is stars. Trauma is psychic wounding. Faith is celestial. Love is true love. Identity androgynous. Interesting. Now this, touching the cardstock, this is a super matte, nice finish. I'm trying to think of what it feels like. Maybe close to the mass market Lightseers Tarot, maybe? All right, so the next card is Achiever. No, actually it's Accomplishment. So Achiever, Celebrity, Failure, Competitor. Okay, so it has the same backs because I think this is the same category as this. I think this is very complicated, so I think we're just going to go through the front of the cards and make that easier. So this card is Addiction, and the categories here, Functioning Addict. It's depicting whether you were the caretaker of an addiction or an addict. Rock Bottom, if you were an enabler of an addict. Very interesting. Adventurer, so maybe you were an explorer, a pioneer, a crusader, or other. Air disaster, so maybe there was an asteroid in your life, a plane crash, a tornado, a bomb. Alternative sexuality. Maybe you were in the sexual minority. Maybe you were a Casanova. Maybe you were asexual. Maybe you were a polygamist or polyamorous. Oh my gosh. That hits my ancestors in my Mormon background. Definitely, and actually I still have a polygamous, an uncle practicing polygamy who's still alive. Animals, so maybe you were a herder, an animal lover, animal care or other. Artist, maybe you were a professional artist, a model. A collector or hobbyist, artist. Aesthetic. Maybe you were a Buddhist ascetic, Christian ascetic, hermit, or mystic. This is very interesting, you guys. Astral experiences, so maybe out of body, you experienced maybe near-death experience, maybe between lives, maybe post-life review. Interesting. Athlete, maybe you were a gladiator, a duelist, martial artist, or other. Banishment. Maybe in a past life you were exiled, shunned, disowned, or forced underground. Do I need to get in a little bit closer, you guys? I just want you to be able to see these. Beauty. Maybe you were the town or village beauty. Maybe you were a femme fatale. Maybe you were a prostitute. And maybe you had struggles with your appearance. I don't know. I think if you're just a woman in general, even if you were the town beauty or a femme fatale or prostitute, I think we all have some kind of a struggle at least at some point in our life, right? It's part of the female experience. I guess it is for the male. They have different issues in that realm. So, brainwashing. Maybe it was political brainwashing. Oh my gosh. Religious brainwashing. That's for me. Social brainwashing or other. Okay, here's a bully. Maybe you were the tormentor. Maybe you were the scapegoat, easy target, flying monkey. Burned. Maybe your house caught on fire. Maybe you were subject to persecution, book burning, branding. There's a lot of cards in this deck, you guys. Charity. Maybe you were the benefactor, patron, beneficiary, or good Samaritan. Childhood trauma. Abused, abandoned, orphaned, kidnapped, or sold. Children. Maybe you had fertility issues. Maybe you lost a child. Or no, maybe you were fertile and then they have infertility here, and here they had illegitimacy. Maybe you were an illegitimate child. Maybe you had one. City dweller. Were you a socialite, working class, innkeeper, shop owner? Communications. Maybe you were a writer, a messenger, publisher, or scribe. Construction. Maybe you were a builder, architect, carpenter, or other. Gestation. Oh, current lifetime. Maybe you're in the gestation period. Childhood, teenage years, or adulthood. Very interesting, you guys. This is very intriguing. In the category of defender, maybe you were a knight, a mercenary, a bodyguard, special intelligence. Destruction. Maybe you were the destroyer, the saboteur, the helpless maiden, or, damsel in distress, or the fool. And I'm looking at the backs, and some of these have different categories above the categories. So for the time frame here, it's late Bronze Age. Lesson, seeing the bigger picture. Death was war. Location, Baltics or Central Europe. Trauma was physical or sexual abuse. Faith, primal or aboriginal. Love, star-crossed, and your identity was an older man. Oh my gosh, this is so interesting, you guys. Let me know in the comments what you're thinking about this deck so far. Devil. And we've got a depiction of the devil card and the fool card here. So maybe you were into dark magic. Maybe you were possessed. Maybe you were cursed. Maybe you were an exorcist. Diet. Maybe you were prone to gluttony, vegetarianism, nutritional or food issues, maybe fasting or deprivation. Discrimination. Maybe you experienced social discrimination, religious, limitations or disease, or sexual. Earth disaster. Maybe you experienced building collapse, earthquake. I've experienced earthquakes growing up in California, many. Animal attack or drought. Okay, and here the backs have different categories upon categories. So Let's start with time frame, classical antiquity, lesson leadership, death by fire, location, Northern Europe, trauma, physical limitation, faith, agnostic or atheist, love, domestic abuse, identity, sibling. Wow. Enslavement. So maybe you were a work slave, a concubine, a prisoner of war, or an emancipated slave. Execution. Maybe you were executed. You were the snitch, you were the executioner, or maybe you were a witness. Oh my gosh, you guys. Close and extraterrestrial. So maybe you had a close encounter. Off-worlder, early earth dweller, or watcher or guardian. Fall of civilization. So maybe greed, corruption, ignorance, or indulgence were in your life. Okay, and the backs change again. So this would fall under the time frame for early Middle Ages, lesson forgiveness, death by suicide, location Southern Europe, trauma would be mental illness, faith, Gnostic or dualist, love separated by distance, identity, guru or idol. Fire disaster, volcano, forest fire, city fire, explosion. Government, maybe you were a governor, you were in a court, maybe advisor, I have trouble reading, or you were a deposer. Can't read those upside down ones very well. Group living, maybe you were in a tribe, maybe you were in a commune, maybe you were in a cult or a monastery. All right, healer, maybe you were an herbalist, doctor, midwife, or faith healer. Okay, again, here the backs change. And so okay, time frame. So you were in the Viking Age. Lesson was accountability, death by broken heart, location Western Europe. Trauma was slander, faith, pantheistic or animistic. Pantheistic or animistic. Love, slave or concubine. Identity was child. So health issues. Maybe you had a contagious illness. Maybe you had a genetic illness. Maybe you suffered from hypochondria or some other infection. Ice disaster. Maybe you lived in the Ice Age. You experienced blizzard. Hail. We have hail here in Texas. Hypothermia. And that could be a good, probably so if you lived in the Viking Age. Imprisonment. Maybe you were imprisoned, freed, escaped, or you were the imprisoner. Industry. Maybe you were a local artisan, international merchant, money handler, manufacturer. All right, and the card backs change. So your time frame is High Middle Ages, lesson greed, death by murder, location Eastern Europe, trauma, poverty, faith, ethical religion, love, you experienced abandonment, identity, you were a devotee or follower. Injustice. Maybe you were the victim, the perpetrator. Maybe you had an injustice overturned, or payback or revenge. Insanity. Maybe you suffered from delusions, hallucinations, mania, or hysteria. Instruction. Maybe you were a teacher, a mentor, a master, or academic. Intellectual. Maybe you were a philosopher, a scientist, a mathematician, or an inventor. Okay, now the time frame is Crusades and Inquisition. Lesson is power. Death by hypothermia. Location, Oceania. Trauma, loss of status or reputation. Faith, mystical. Love, you had an affair. Identity, grandparent. This is like really cool, you guys. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you have anything like this, if there's another deck even remotely like this, let me know in the comments. Leadership. Maybe you were a leader, maybe you were a ruler, a follower, or a boss. Loss of a loved one. Maybe you lost someone to death, abandonment, war, unexplained disappearance. This is heartbreaking, you guys. Magic. Maybe you were a sorcerer or sorceress, an alchemist, an illusionist, or a Wiccan. Maritimer. Maybe you were an explorer, a fisherman, a pirate, an ocean traveler. And this time frame is pre-Columbian Americas. Lesson is prophecy and gifts. Death was by starvation or dehydration. Location was Asia. Trauma was guilty conscience. Faith, forced conversion. Love, deceived or betrayed. Identity, you were a grandchild. Okay, pre-Columbian Americas for the time frame. So military, maybe you were in the infantry, Navy, Air Force, weapons development. Murder, maybe you were murdered. Suicide, maybe you were the murderer, and maybe you were a witness. Nature worship. Maybe you were into pantheism, druidism, animism, or Franciscan mysticism. Obsession. Maybe you were in an obsessive love affair. You experienced jealousy or an obsessive lover or other. Okay, so this is the late Middle Ages time frame. Lesson, peace, death, old age, location, India. Trauma was you were a witness or bystander. Your faith was secret. Love, LGBT. Your identity, father. Oppression. Maybe in your life you experienced social oppression, religious oppression. You were the oppressor, or you experienced domestic oppression. Peacemaker. Maybe you were a diplomat, a mediator, a pacifist, or other. performer. Maybe in your past life you were a musician, a dancer, an actor, an entertainer. Poverty. Maybe you were in the lower class. Dispossessed. Maybe you were a beggar. Maybe you experienced extreme famine. Aw, look at that. Okay, now the backs, the time frame for the backs is Age of Enlightenment. Lesson is Truth and Discernment. Death was by poison. Location, Arctic or Antarctic. Trauma was war. Faith, sacrificial. Love, polygamous or polyamorous. Identity was mother. Power, you were in a position of authority. You had fame or recognition. You experienced a loss of power or an abuse of power. Psychic, maybe in your past life you were a high priestess, a gypsy, a prophet, or astrologer. Rebel, maybe you were a nonconformist, an activist, a revolutionary, or anarchist. Religious devotion, maybe you were reverent, mystical, extremist, or evangelical. I mean, she's ticking all the boxes here, isn't she? So the card backs change. So the time frame is Age of Discovery. Lesson is overcoming fear. Death was by public execution. Your location was Russia. Trauma was betrayal. Faith was prophet-led. Love was promiscuous. Identity was other relative. All right, so revolution. Proletariat, reign of terror. Wealthy elite, war or uprising. Rise of civilization. Maybe you were a dreamer, an organizer, a planner, a developer. Ritual sacrifice. Maybe you were a ritual priest, a cannibal, a headhunter, oh my gosh, or you were a human sacrifice. Romance. Maybe you experienced or found your true love. Maybe you experienced a star-crossed love. Love of convenience, so like an arranged marriage, or unrequited love. And, ooh, okay. The time frame is the American Civil War era. So that would be 61 to 1965. I'm sorry, 1861 to 1865. Lesson was passive conformity. Death was by torture. Location, underground civilization. Trauma, psychological or verbal abuse. Faith, cult. Love, companionship. Your identity was friend. Royalty. Maybe you were a direct descendant. Maybe you were an illegitimate of a royal figure. Maybe you were deposed or lost your title. And maybe you were a distant relation to royalty. Rural living. So maybe in a past life, you were a peasant, a farmer, a hunter, a Saintly. Maybe you were a philanthropist, a caretaker, a martyr, or a savior or hero. Secret society. Maybe you were a member of the Freemasons, the Rosicrucian, other, or Camorra. I'm not familiar with this right here. So if you have Rosicrucian, let me know. I'll have to look that up. So you learned some stuff. Never stop learning. All right, secrets. Maybe you had a secret agenda. Okay, wait a minute. Got to go back because this is where the backs change. So the time frame is early modern age. Your lesson was gluttony. Death was by dementia. Location was Africa. Trauma was abandonment. Faith, ascetic. Love was obsessive, and your identity was a husband. All right, secrets. You had a secret agenda, a secret affair, a kept in the dark, or were kept in the dark, and secrets exposed. Okay, so maybe in the past life you were a servant. You did housework, childcare, I think that's indentured servant or other. Sexual assault. Maybe you were a victim, a witness, a perpetrator, or a bystander. Swindler. Maybe you were the perpetrator. Maybe you exposed somebody. Maybe you were the swindled. And maybe you evaded capture. Technology. So use of technology, technological progress, technological disaster, and abuse of technology. And this is, all right, the change here is the time frame is late modern age. Lesson is walking the middle path. Death was by childbirth. Location, the Middle East. Trauma, material loss. Faith, philosophical. Love, you were a widow or widower, and your identity was a wife. The law, maybe you were a judge, you were in law enforcement, lawmaker, or a lawyer. Torture, maybe you were the victim, maybe you were the informer, maybe you were the torturer, and maybe you were the witness. Truth seeker, maybe you were in charge of an investigation, maybe you were a spy, involved in spying, maybe you were involved in spiritual questioning, and maybe you were questioning authority. War. Maybe you were the warrior, conscripted. Maybe you were a dissenter. Maybe you experienced the trauma of war, PTSD. Water disaster. Maybe you experienced a flood, a tsunami, or tropical storm. Maybe you were lost at sea or drowned. Oh, the Titanic. Time frame is World War age. So maybe somewhere in between the world wars. Lesson, becoming more natural. Your death, miscarried or died at birth. Aw. Location, lost civilization. Trauma, oppression. Faith, fanatical. Love, you were a spinster. Identity, Lover. Wealth. So maybe you were privy to inheritance, acquisition of wealth. Maybe you were the miser, or gambling or into speculation. Wild West. Maybe you were a cowboy, a settler, a indigenous person, or other. Wisdom keeper. So maybe you were a wise person, somebody well informed, somebody enlightened, or a wounded healer. I know that resonates with many. World War. Maybe you were an allied defender, an allied invader. You were involved some way in the Holocaust, or survived it, or had ancestors. Well, yeah. You were a victim of it, or Hiroshima. And then we have these extra cards. You know what? I think these extra cards, you can design your own cards. Yes, I believe she was including, now that I remember, some extra cards where you could put your own categories, and you can fill out the backs yourself. Oh my gosh, you guys, and I know this is long, this is going to be long, but we have to take a peek at the book, you guys. We just do. Because you really, you're going to have to, I think you're going to have to read this book to get the full effect of the deck. So we'll take a quick look. There is an ample table of contents. So about the cards, are the card backs related to the fronts? This is not a feel-good deck. Working with history, ethnic diversity, and political correctness, archetypes versus past lives. How can I heal or release past lives? Using a spread, setting an intention, spreading and selecting cards, 1 card spread, 4 card spread, reading the cards for where they touch, fleshing out the reading using other cards, relationship spread, archetypal spread, or archetypal reading. What if the divider appears at the top of the card? So maybe one of these things here. Other readings, major themes, and archetypes, the 3 blank cards. And then she goes into the cards themselves. And then card back categories, how to use the card backs, including card backs in a spread with card fronts, 3 blank cards, okay. Card back definition charts. So she goes over the time frame, the lesson, the death, the location, the trauma, the faith, the love, identity. Oh my gosh, you guys, there's a lot. So this is, there's no, oh yeah, there is a black and white picture. And so, for instance, I just opened to air disaster. So there is, she goes over each of the categories that are depicted on the card. And she adds the archetype. So for instance, air disaster, she has asteroid. In a past life, you may have been affected or witnessed when a meteor, asteroid, spacecraft, or another heavenly object crashed to Earth. This is so funny that, well, it's not funny, but when I was in elementary school, I was walking home from school and I saw 2 small planes crash. Literally, I saw them hit each other and they crashed right into, it was about right in front of the police station, which was about 2 blocks from where I lived. And there was pieces of the airplanes found in my backyard. quite traumatic. If you lived, I lived in Culver City, California, LA, and there's the Culver City Police Station. Back in the 70s, there was two small aircraft that crashed, landed right on Culver Boulevard, right in front of the police station there, and my sister and I saw the whole thing. And we went over and as far as we could go to see the plane crash, and yeah, they quickly covered up the bodies and some parts with blue tarps. By the time I had got there, they had already done that. And other neighbors reported some body parts in their backyard. We found a piece of an airplane in ours. So I can say I have experienced or witnessed, I was a witness to a plane crash. And yeah, I was in elementary school. So the archetype here, you're a creative thinker who's known for your out-of-this-world ideas or insights, or perhaps you communicate with other worldly beings. Alternatively, you may feel hit out of the blue by a realization or something hard to process. Oh my gosh, you guys, there is so much to this book. There's also footnotes. So much to this book. I think I'm going to have to work with this and come back and show you, because the video is already too long. And what am I at right now? I'm at 44 minutes. There is using the card backs. There's notes here, a place for notes. Oh my gosh. I do not have anything like this, and the nearest thing I've been for a while wanting to get, it's published by Blue Orchid, the Past Art History, Past Lives Tarot, published by Red Orchid. That's like at the top of my wish list, and I haven't gotten it yet. So I'm thinking these in conjunction, because I don't have anything specific for past lives. So I am just blown away with how much is in this deck. There are so many cards, and let's just, before I close, and I just saw something. I can't even count. They're not numbered. There is a ton of cards here. But here in the book, you know, she's showing how to use the front and the backs. This is a picture of her there's pictures down here of her Healers of the Earth Oracle, which also uses the fronts and the backs for divination, but it's not quite as detailed as this deck. So this is specifically for past life reading, and just to show you, this is her other deck, Healers of the Earth. Real quick, I just wanted to show you how. Do you see this? Personal, emotional, and then she has, you know, the front of the card. So I have a full-on walkthrough and comparison of the two versions of this deck on my channel, and I will link those below. Yes, please let me know what you think of this gorgeous deck and system by Mandy Peterson. Please leave your comments. I am super excited. Maybe I'm the only one. Let me know. And if you found any value to this video, please hit a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I will, if this is still available, I will also link that information below. So thank you for sticking with me. If you've watched all the way through, thank you so much. Until next time, I will see you real soon. Bye for now.